it's you here with Lori. Welcome to another episode of The Icing Artist. Today we're going to be doing a Tinkerbell cake. I'm going to take this pretty Barbie and turn it into a beautiful cake that everyone is going to love, especially the little girl who's going to get the cake, and she's going to have a wonderful souvenir to take home afterwards. Let's get started.
So first we're going to make our gelatin wings. So you want to take 2.5 tablespoons of water, and then you want to mix in the color. So I'm just going to add a little bit of pink and mix that up very thoroughly, and then you can see the color here of what your wings are going to look like. Add in 1 tablespoon of gelatin that you can buy at your local grocery store. Heat it up in the microwave for 10 seconds to make it liquid. Wait for 5 minutes, scrape off the top layer, and then use a fine paintbrush, and we're just going to paint this on a butterfly mold that I did get. I will be putting all of the molds and forms that I will be using in this video in my description below. So you just want to paint that onto the wings, and you're going to need these to set overnight, and then they should just pop right off your sheet. Once they're off, you can cut out the shape of your butterfly, or in this case, it's going to be a fairy. You just cut those out with scissors, and then set that aside. And then I'm just going to take some pink fondant and put it into a flower mold that I got. And you just squish it in, and it just pops right out into a really pretty flower. And I'm just going to use some pink luster dust to help it sparkle and bring out the shape of the flower a little bit more. You can see the difference there. And I'm just going to roll out some more pink fondant. Use some small flower cutters, and I'm just going to cut out 3 different petals or flowers, and I'm just going to use my balling tool to help ruffle the edges of my flower. And this is the flower that's going to go on her hip. Set them in, I'm just using some measuring spoons to set them in overnight to hold the shape. And then once those are set overnight, use some water, and you can just do that to glue them together. And just put all the 3 flowers in together. Now I've already cut off the top of my cake and filled it, and I'm just going to assemble my cake and give it a very light coat of icing, just a crumb coat. Set it in the fridge for 5 minutes, and then give it a little bit of a thicker coat of icing. After you've done your thicker coat, make sure your cake is very smooth, and then it's ready to cover in fondant. Roll out some white fondant, and I'm just going to use my mat to help transfer my fondant to my cake, lifting the mat up and placing it over my cake. And then you just have to peel the mat off the fondant, and the fondant will stick to your cake. Once you take the mat off, you're going to want to immediately trim off the excess weight of the fondant going around the cake, so that way it doesn't rip at the edges. Pull the fondant out and push in with your hand, pulling it out and pushing it in, and that's going to really wrap the fondant around your cake. And then just take a knife, and this is when you want to do your final trimming and smoothing it out. Now I'm going to cut the ribbon that's going to go around the bottom of the cake. So you just want to cut a really long rectangle. And I'm just going to use some pink luster dust again. And I'm just going to color my ribbon pink and sparkly. Make sure you get that top edge because you will see it. And then I'm just going to take some water, brush it around the whole bottom of your cake, and then just pull and really kind of stick on the ribbon to your cake. If it's too short and you need a little bit extra, just cut out a small piece and just piece that in. Try to make the seam at the back of your cake. I'm using a dowel to mark out the height of the cake. You're going to need 4 of these, so just cut 4. And these are going to be the pillars that are going to hold up the weight of the second cake, of the dress. And you just want to stick those into your cake. Make sure they're far enough in that the cake board will cover it. And now I'm going to get my dress on my smaller cake board. The top of my cake actually got stuck in the pan, so you just want to, if that happens to you, just pry it out. And I'm just going to trim off the excess crust of this cake. It got a little bit overdone, and I'm not happy with it, so I'm just going to trim that off and make sure it's very smooth going around the cake. You don't want any bumps to show up. I'm going to divide my dress into 3 sections, and then I'm going to fill it with some buttercream and then reassemble it. Now the top of my dress, since it did come off, I'm just going to use a little bit of icing and stick it back on. Now you want to mark out the new size of your dress on your cake board and cut your cake board to size. And you can put your dress right back on. Now you're going to want to cut out the center of your dress so that way your Barbie can stick into it. And you can use another knife to help make the right size and take out some of those crumbs. And then I crumb coated mine first and then decided I want my dress to have a little bit of extra dimension. So I'm carving out 5 different areas where it's just going to concave in so that way the dress has a little bit more dimension and flow to it. Re-crumb coat it and then put a little bit thicker coat of icing onto it. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Set it in the fridge for 5 minutes. And then I'm just using a piece of paper towel and really smoothing out the edges. It's ready to go onto your cake. If it's not quite centered, once you put it on, you can use a spatula to help put it into center onto the cake. I rolled out some green fondant for her dress, same way I did the white, and I'm just going to peel back the plastic. And I'm going to trim my dress down to size. Don't trim it too short because you want the dress to flow. And peel it back and push in the edges the same way. And then you can just do a final closer trim if you're not happy with the shape of it. Cut out the little middle section of fondant. I'm using a longer dowel that has a pointy end, and that's going to have to screw through the cake board, and this is going to hold the dress and the other cake together so it doesn't topple over. I'm going to take my Barbie and I'm just going to wrap her in some saran wrap so that way she doesn't get covered in cake. And then you just want to stick that into the cake. There, she's already starting to look like a dress. Roll out some darker green fondant, cut out the shape of your leaves. I'm using a veining mat, and you want to place your leaf onto the veining mat. Use a little bit of cornstarch and icing sugar so that your hand doesn't stick to it. And then just pat down with your hand, and that's going to be putting the impression of the leaf, well, of the veins into your leaf. I'm using some dark green color dust and some bright green luster dust, and that's going to give out the shape of the leaves, the color into it, and then give it a little bit extra sparkle. Wet your leaves with some water, and we're just going to stick that to our cake. You want to butt them up against each other and do the full first layer like that. Once you've done that layer, you want to cut the end off your second leaf so it makes them a little bit shorter. Stagger those leaves from what they were at the first layer. Now for her train, you just want to basically lay out the leaves going back down the side, like the back of her dress. Just like that. Just kind of stagger them going down and then place the other leaves over top of that. All the way down her dress. Just like that. Now I'm just taking some pink buttercream icing, and I'm just going to use a little bit of a pipework technique, and I'm just basically making a bunch of swirls all over the bottom of the cake. I just thought these might look a little bit pretty. That was just not plain white. So you just want to basically just swirl around in different shapes, whatever you'd like. And it makes it a really, really, really pretty kind of technique on the back of the cake. Now you want to take your gelatin wings, pierce a little hole in the center of the wing. I'm using a piece of plastic that the Barbie came with her other plastic wings onto it, and you're just going to stick that right onto your Barbie. Now I'm going to stick all the flowers on. One on her hip and then the rest around, just flowing staggeredly around the base of her dress.
We're all finished, and you can see how it all kind of went pieced together. It looks complicated in the picture. Once you see the little pieces, how it kind of goes together, it's actually not that difficult. I mean, if you just want to make the dress without the base, you can do that as well, but I wanted more cake. Who doesn't want more cake? So I decided to make both. But you can do whatever you'd like, and it's really beautiful, and whoever has this cake will have a beautiful Barbie to have as a souvenir to take home, and it's just a lot of fun. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, And thanks so much for watching. Oh, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel where I will be putting out new videos like this every Tuesday. Thanks a lot guys for watching. Bye.